I mean, what are you gonna say about the situation? I like to watch a bunch of different people, and different people have different reactions to different things. And apparently, he's just not very happy with the Jeffrey Epstein situation and the way that the stuff is happening. But I don't know. Maybe it's just because I have to imagine I'm older than he is. I have to imagine I'm a fair bit older than he is. And I guess, especially my generation, we're just kind of used to it at this point. It's hard to get outraged at things like this because you know that the vast majority of people just don't care. And as long as the vast majority of people just don't care, then even though, I agree that it's bullshit that these kinds of things happen, the reason why these organizations are able to do what they're able to do is because no matter how much you complain, how much you try to spark outrage, for the most part, the majority of people just don't care. They don't. They really, really don't. They look at Epstein and they look at all the stuff that happened and they go, oh my God, that's such a terrible thing. Did I leave my stove on? I understand, I understand how you look at a situation like that and you can't help but thinking it's such BS that this kind of stuff happens. But at the same time, you start to get to a certain point in your life where you start to realize that you're not going to stoke the mass of the population to try to fix stuff like this. Because they don't care. People are far too involved in their own everyday lives to give Jeffrey Epstein and the things that happened to those poor girls more than just a passing thought. And most of us are guilty of that, If you're honest with yourself, you know that, when you hear about it, you're like, man, that's some effed up stuff. Ugh. Can't believe that, people were allowed to let that happen and all this kind of stuff happen. And while you're thinking about it, you're having all these kinds of ew emotions and stuff. But then, you stop thinking about it, you move on to the next part of your day, and you don't think about it again until the next time it comes up in the news. The issue that we have is that people just don't care. As Dave Chappelle so eloquently put in one of his specials, we're the generation of people who grew up and have lived our entire lives with horrible tragedies thrown in our face every day online. It's kind of hard to care about one specific issue, one specific horrible tragedy thing, when we're constantly having these kinds of things shoved in our face every moment of every day. And, as horrible as Jeffrey Epstein is, it's not any more horrible than the tragedies that are happening in places like Ukraine, the crazy deaths and things that are happening in Gaza, and the war between Iran and Israel, and now we're dragging ourselves into that fight. The horrible, horrible genocides that have happened over and over again in Africa. I mean, there's just so much crap happening in the world that it's really, really hard to mobilize an entire citizenry behind any one specific issue. And so long as people don't care about our government covering these things up, this is the way it's going to be. I mean, I wish I had a better answer for you. I know it's popular to just rail against the system and, talk about how it's BS this and drum up a bunch of drama and try to, the small percentage of people who are going to pay attention and who are going to care. Obviously, you're speaking to them and it riles them up. But you guys aren't going to be able to do anything about it. It's just whining. It's just whining. And that's my problem. It's it saddens me that YouTube and social media and all these platforms, they cater to the basest instincts that we have. And there is no way to fix that because it's driven by profits. And, even myself, I'm trying to get to the point where I can start to make some money, and I'm trying really, really hard to just, try to cover the rational side of things as best I can. But unfortunately, rationality it's not a moneymaker. It's just not a moneymaker. So, there is no avoiding the drama in situations like this. You're always going to have people who are outraged over these things that happen. But you guys are getting outraged and then not doing anything about it, which means that you guys don't care any more than the rest of the population does. None of these people who get on these platforms and start talking about how this is bullshit and this is that and this is this and rah, rah, rah. they make their video, they publish their video, and then they move on to the next topic because they don't really care any more than anybody else does. Right? I mean, I don't see any of these people talking crap about the government doing this and doing that, running for office, or, you know, opening up lawsuits against the government, or doing anything that would actually cause some kind of a change. They just farm the outrage and make a video and then move on. And that's YouTube. I mean, that's social media in general. I'm not criticizing Moist Critical or Penguin Z or whatever. I know he goes by a couple of different names. I'm not criticizing him necessarily for making the video. He's just the video I happen to see that pertains to this subject that I want to talk about. And it is this. We care to a certain point, but unless the issue affects us directly and enough people directly, it's hard to care enough to actually try to do anything about it. Because, you know, A, we're selfish human beings who are more focused on our own lives than we are people we don't know. And then B, in this modern time, we're constantly under assault by all the terrible crap that's happening in the world. And if people are going out of their way every moment of every day to try to shove a new tragedy in front of your face, then none of them really feel like they matter. And that's why this continues to go the way it goes. So, as I've said before, I'm really trying to make videos that are focusing on the rational side of things, not just to farm drama. So when I make videos like this, if it seems like I'm trying to go after drama, I can kind of understand how you might get that. It's not really my intent. My intent is to kind of cover the other side of things that a lot of people aren't covering and give you guys a perspective that's away from just the visceral emotional feelings that people are trying to elicit from you. Is it terrible that Jeffrey Epstein did the things that he did? Absolutely. Nobody could objectively claim or reasonably claim in any kind of way that the victims that he created in the world, that's a terrible thing. Is it bullshit that the government is covering it up and not releasing all of the information? Of course it is. We want to live in a system where justice is the law of the land, and that's just it. But unfortunately, we don't live in that world. Not enough people care about that particular issue to actually mobilize and do something about it. So it continues on because there's no consequences. And there can't be any consequences unless a majority of the population cares enough to do something about it. And they don't. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to click the like button, subscribe to help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. And I will see you for the next one.